Christian. Thank you for that. I told you guys it takes a lot to get Zack Strickland in here on a Tuesday and not in here for Freightonomics. And today we've got a really exciting announcement about a brand new index coming from FreightWaves, a partnership with Mercube. And Zack, of course, we've got you here, our market expert. We've also got Roby Muntoni, who is Chief Commercial Officer over at Mercube. So guys, thank you so much for being here today to talk about this roundtable. Zack, give us a little bit of background. What is going on with this and what are we announcing today?
Yeah, so basically we've created an index here in partnership with Mercube that Roby's a part of to help us really kind of describe what's going on with supply chain in the financial markets. And it's something that's lacking significantly from the financial space as we see it. Right now we have like the Dow Jones Transportation Index, but it's really kind of based on things that aren't necessarily supply chain oriented, and so we kind of over time, I mean, a lot of people have heard the term supply chain and they don't necessarily really have a full grasp of what that means.
So, Roby, you guys from Mercube, talk to us a little bit about the decision to partner with us here at FreightWaves and how it's really mutually beneficial, right? This is kind of the symbiotic relationship that we are now starting to build here, which helps everybody in the industry kind of get a better grasp on how freight and transportation relate to finance.
Yes, sure. Thanks for having me first off. And as you guys mentioned, a lot of attention, particularly with the pandemic a couple of years ago, and then the recent events with the war in Ukraine, but a number of reasons why the supply chain has been in focus. And personally, I live in a world of I want it now and I want it delivered. So when you are affected by the disruption in the supply chain, all of a sudden is in everybody's mind. So we had the opportunity to partner with FreightWaves, and the expertise is the number one ingredient in building this index. So it was a unique opportunity to partner with FreightWaves. We consider the oracle in the space, as well as our own inclination to be a tech-driven firm. We're an index provider, although I like to think of us as a technology provider for the index space. And we saw the opportunity with this match in focus on technology to bring to market a way to take exposure to companies that are focused on technology in the supply chain and logistics industry, so that to give individuals and to give corporations a way to quantify, to follow, to monetize this industry, which is a tremendously interesting and growing industry, particularly in the technology space, as it is, a bit of a traditional space where technology has a long way to go, and therefore a lot of opportunities.
So, Zack, obviously this is kind of a big pivot for us here at FreightWaves. We're going from tracking like these tangible pieces of freight markets. You're talking about tender rejections and volumes and lane prices and everything like that, to going to something that's a little bit less tangible, a little bit more kind of feelings-based, right? So how are we going about actually quantifying this? What does the actual index involve and what does it truly measure?
Yeah, we've gone and taken, basically 5 categories, based on, you can read the article to get the full details here, but it's basically 3PL, asset-based, logistics, but they're very tech-savvy asset-based. It's not just going into traditional spaces, if you will, as well as a few other kind of like autonomous, driven, but they have to have a lot of volume behind them. So daily traded value has to be above about $3 million, and they have to have a minimum market cap of about $5 million. So we've mixed together this mix of pure play, logistics, supply chain, and kind of this, they have a little bit of a side interest or an influence in the supply chain technology space. And we've mixed those together, but it's about 80% pure play supply chain. And so what that means is you're going to get a feel for, what the investment sentiment is for supply chain tech. I mean, most of these companies have, obviously a lot of dedicated involvement in supply chain tech, but sometimes the investment sentiment kind of wanes in that space. And this will help people understand and see more clearly, essentially, what the investment sentiment is. You know, the financial sector kind of has a lot of emotion, like you said, in it. And we, you know, at FreightWaves try to measure a lot of that tangible action with a lot of our data. But this kind of shows, you know, where's the money going? Is the money flowing into investment in a supply chain technology?
So, Roby, I want to kind of focus on that same question with you as well. How important was it to you guys to provide something that is tangible and see kind of this, take it from this emotional kind of sentiment standpoint and put it onto trackable data points where you can see the graphs going up and down and changing as investor sentiment changes? And then really, what does that show about the way that people are feeling right now, especially in a market like this where it seems like investors were really into the freight industry and now there's a little bit of pullback?
Yeah, sure. I think that regardless of the direction of the market, the key piece here is to be able to measure it. You know, there is the one thing that we know about the market is the market will fluctuate, right? So we have seen a tremendous amount of interest during the pandemic, you know, partly because people were more focused, they had more time. It was at the forefront of everybody's mind with everything, with the disruption and everything else that was going on. And but most important is regardless of the sentiment of which position, whether you take a long position, whether you take a short position, whether you use it as a hedge, it stimulates investments in the it's a circle. So when people are able to measure it, when they're able to, oops.
You're still there, we got you.
Oh, did we lose her?
We might have lost her for a second, but that's okay. Because I want to roll right into this with you and talk about kind of how this is applicable within the actual space of SONAR, right? So our SONAR platform is something that, as I mentioned, is tangible data. And is this going to be accessible to SONAR users already? And then how can people who are maybe using SONAR on a daily basis look at this and make decisions off of it?
Yeah, so it is in SONAR as of this morning. We pushed it to production for all the SONAR users out there. You can check it out, and I didn't memorize this full ticker. Just type in MQ. That's what I do. and you have two values available in SONAR. One is going to be the total value, and the other one is just going to be based on price.
So you've got a chart up. Right.
Yeah, we got a chart.
Is that what we're looking at?
That we can show. There you go. So the total value is there in the blue, and the price value is there in the white line. And the difference between the two is simply, you know, there's dividends. Dividends go out and they devalue the price at times, and that total just keeps the dividend as part of the value because you haven't necessarily lost value when you're investing in a stock. So you can actually keep the total value in your investment if someone were to license this index, and that's kind of a big deal because you're not necessarily just depending on maybe that company wants to disperse dividends as part of their value proposition to their investors. That doesn't necessarily erode, you know, some people don't want dividend dispersal. And so that's why we have the total up there.
So that's kind of a view of the freight application to it. But Roby, what about the finance side of things? For maybe finance folks who aren't a regular user of our SONAR ecosystem, what type of value does this provide them? And does it kind of give them a springboard into the transportation industry by looking at now these tangible values?
Yes, absolutely. I apologize. I think I lost my connection before, so I'm not really sure which part. I just kept on going, so I'm not really sure what you heard and what you didn't. But regardless, again, I think that the ability to measure brings value to the investors. So just the knowledge and the ability to take exposure. And again, this is the first index that really focus on the companies that are looking at the technology behind the supply chain and logistics, where we know that there is a tremendous amount of growth potential and a tremendous ability to make a difference by automating certain functions. So it is undoubtedly a space that will grow. I think that it would be a disservice to look at, you know, the daily movement because it is, you know, it's a large industry, and to look at it more of as a vehicle to be able to take direct exposure into this industry.
So is there anyone that can you reveal the secrets of who's included in this index, or is it secret sauce right now?
So an index by nature is transparent. So you always know exactly the amount of which companies and in what proportion the companies are included in the index. So at any point in time, you can either go to our website, which is mercube.com, or you can the values of the index, which is calculated daily, are published via means like Bloomberg, Reuters. So there's a number of ways to get the information, but certainly you can always access it via mercube.com, as well as the specific rules that allow for the creation of the index, the way that we treat the corporate actions when we reconsider the constituents of the index or the weight of the constituents of the index. So all this information is available on the Mercube website.
And then, Zack, to wrap it up, for folks who maybe want to learn a little bit more about this, can they call their SONAR customer success person? Where can they go for help from our side of things?
Absolutely. Go to freightwaves.sonar.com to find out more about it, but also check with your customer success rep.
There you go. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here, Roby. We appreciate it, and we're excited to see where this goes. Zack, thanks for coming in on your Tuesday. Of course, we'll see you on Thursday for Freightonomics. We're going to take one last quick break, and then we will be back to wrap up your Tuesday edition of FreightWaves Now.